hope you're ready. This is going to be exciting.
And the Geico restarts up to go. Green flag is out and we're underway.
Just a few laps into this. Oh, the 37's getting loose. Oh, and he saves it. Oh, they're going 3 wide.
We've got a 5-way fight for the win of this race coming to 4 laps to go. He's gonna win it here in spectacular fashion.
From Charlotte Motor Speedway in Concord, North Carolina, it is playoff season right here in the Goat Locker Racing INVETS Grand National Series. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to V-Speed. Dave Regal alongside the great one, Loga Threlkeld, and in the production truck is Skylar Daly on the ones and twos and everything in between. We've got a great one for you tonight as we get ready to move into playoff season here in the Goat Locker INVETS Grand National Series. Want to thank everybody for tuning in wherever you may be and however you may be listening, because we've got 100 laps, 150 miles of great racing here on a Sunday night. Now, of course, this track does go 1.5 exact miles around this place, 24 degrees of banking in the turns, 5 degrees on the backstretch. This quad oval is going to be giving these drivers a lot of headaches. What do you think, Logan?
It's going to be a lot of headaches and a lot of false confidence, Dave. This track, these cars here, specifically this track, can get extremely loose under certain conditions. And right now, under the lights, as you can see, 76 degrees track surface, 73 degrees ambient air temperature. So it's going to be one of those races where drivers really have to focus on that throttle. We're going to take it over to our playoff drivers here, starting the playoffs in week 11. Have a look at who is taking part. We'll start out with Mark Whitley, Joseph McWhorter, Chuck Sweeting, Barrett Morton, Levi McCarty. We've got Burke, Seagraves, Davis, Kinder, Curtis, Wallace, and Huber in the first round of 12. Of course, the first race here, we've got one more before we reach that cutoff for the round of 8. But this is where the anticipation really starts to skyrocket, Dave.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, for those of us that have been paying attention to this series all season long, it's really not much of a surprise to see drivers like Mark Whitley and Joseph McWhorter up atop this pile. Levi McCarty, another name. And you know, these are those names that we've been hearing all season long, and now it's paying off. Ken Huber, another playoff driver, is going to be earning the Jam Printing and Promotion Pole Award tonight, as qualifying is now wrapping up. And let's just see where he falls, or where everybody else falls. But Ken Huber going to earn that Jam Printing and Promotion Pole Award. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They have been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning. They're local and veteran certified, and when they do well, they can do more good in the community. And joining Ken Huber on the front row is Joseph McWhorter, driving that number 72. Starting on the inside of row number 2, going to be Wesley Burke, joined by Tracy Passon. Starting in 5th position tonight is going to be Austin McColgan, while Judson Curtis starts in 6th. 7th position rolls off here to Barrett Morton, with Trenton Sneed in 8th. Rounding out your starting top 10 is Phoenix, Arizona's Jamie Libke alongside of Garrett Kinder.
In the P11 position, it is the 90 of Dave Calvert next to the 33 of Devontae Drain in 12th. The 99 of Brandon Wallace starting out here in 13th next to the 09 of Stephen Davis. Chuck Pegleg Feltz finds the 75 in the 15th starting spot next to the 19 of Mason Mueller. Behind them, the 64 of J.J. Gisa next to the 18 of Levi McCarty, starting a little bit further back for this first playoff race. And last but not least in the top 20, the 59 of Frederick Seagraves Jr. next to the 1 of Christopher Heiner. In the 21st position, we have Kevin Price in the 80 machine next to the 77 of Mark Whitley in 22nd. Another driver starting way further back than anticipated.
23rd going to be Kyle Deering in the 50 piece, while Stefan Purcell starts in 24th. 25th position going to go there. He is Brock Price, while Darrell Whitford gets the 20 machine into 26th position. 27th going to be Armando Melgoza. And starting shotgun on the field tonight, going to be Gary Wright in the 29th position. 28 cars scheduled to take the green flag tonight as drivers are now gridding up and out here ready to rock and roll as we have gone out here on the racetrack. The iRacing.com pace car lights are out. As we take a look at Ken Huber out of Kalispell, Montana. An impressive driver, all things considered, as he has put together quite the resume here in the Goat Locker Racing Series.
And picking up that pole award for the first race of the playoffs, that could be, big. I believe there is a bonus point in the category of that. Making it into the playoffs, you want as many bonus points as possible to continue on deeper into the rounds and hopefully find your way into that championship four.
Absolutely, as drivers now working their way into that 3-4 complex. The iRacing.com pace car lights are back on, so there may be some shuffling as, of course, a lot of times we'll have penalties pre-race or post-race from the week before. In this case, 2 weeks before, as all of you were not with us last week. Of course, celebrating Easter for most of the country and, taking the week off here. As now the iRacing.com pace car brings us into the quad oval, crossing that start-finish line. One of the things we're going to take a big note of tonight is those cars, when they come out of turn 4, the amount of energy that they unload, it's going to tend for some of these folks to almost overdrive the exit.
That's kind of exactly what I was touching base on early, right at the beginning of this broadcast here. It's a very circumstantial car, and this track provides such high speeds. We're talking 180 miles, 185 miles an hour down through the front straight. That's about the top that you're going to see out of these O'Reilly B-Class cars. So whenever you're getting up there to that top speed, that aerodynamic package that these things have, it can very easily be manipulated by the car in front of you.
Yeah, and I mean, we call them B-Class cars here on iRacing. And of course, in the real world, we kind of look at that as the second tier of racing competition. But I'll tell you what, these cars are a handful to drive. In fact, in some ways, I've heard a lot of drivers say that the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series cars are almost harder to drive. As now we work our way back into turn number 4. The iRacing.com pace car leads us out and puts that nose down toward pit road. And as everybody gets their gloves tightened up, the only thing that's left to do is it's time to wipe the visor and adjust the 5-point harness. Grandma, grab your popcorn, your honey buns, and settle in. Race fans, it's show time! Green flag in the air, off we go at Charlotte.
And there's already calamity in the backfield. The 90 of Dave Calvert around and down on the apron. I don't believe anybody else was too caught up in it, but we're going to have a couple positions changed. So we're going to let Joseph McWhorter, Ken Huber get back around and catch up to that pace car. We'll take a look back here on the V-Speed Instant Replay. Keep an eye there mid-pack. Looks like the 90 might have missed a shift, and then I believe that's the 99 of Wallace taking it down to the inside to avoid it, just gets back into the left rear. Calvert goes backwards into the inside wall, puts a lot of damage on the rear bumper.
Yeah, that can be frustrating on a couple of different levels, especially, when you're in Dave Calvert's position at this point in the season. And I mean, Mark Whitley, who, at least for my money, has started out, well, had a couple of rough starts earlier in the season. It's kind of a Mark Whitley kind of start as we work here. Taking a look, for whatever reason, my timing and scoring has decided to throw up all over the place.
Well, I
No,
know
maybe it hasn't.
Whitley had some issues in his qualifying effort. I heard him talking over the radio right before we settled into the grid that he wishes, being able to scrape the wall by the length of, or by the width of a hair. It's, I guess he might have caught the wall probably out of turn 4, which gave him that 0x on the board, but that's just enough to cancel your qualifying lap. And if that was on his second lap, that's always going to be your fastest lap here at Charlotte. So Whitley started all the way back outside of the top 20 in the 22nd position as opposed to his competition. And, McWhorter being up there on the front row, Wesley Burke, even Levi McCarty had some issues, started back in 18th. So a couple drivers here in the playoffs that didn't quite get the start that they were wanting.
Well, oddly enough, what I thought was SDK throwing my timing and scoring into mayhem. It was because it was a window problem, and it cut off the beginning number in some of the standings over here. So what I thought was suddenly 1 was actually 21. So I thought SDK has decided to have itself just a good old hissy fit, but here we are on lap number 3. The iRacing.com pace car leading us around for yet another parade lap. I got all excited for the drop of the green flag, and this happens from time to time, folks, where, we get all amped up, we're ready to roll, and then bad things happen out on the racetrack. You almost hope that this doesn't set the tone for the rest of this competition tonight.
We kind of thought that Friday night with the truck series, and it was, you kind of compare the Wednesday night series and the Friday night series together, being the kind of the invite-only situation here in Goat Locker. But it started out kind of rough on Friday night, but then we had a nice long, I believe it was a 60 or 65 green flag run. We ended up actually seeing some green flag pit stops at Bristol. So, I have hope here that it's just going to be a one-and-done thing. We'll get some green flag laps underway and see what these drivers can really put on, what type of show this will end up being.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we look at, week after week here in the INVETS Grand National Series is basically the rear bumper of Joseph McWhorter. A lot of times we see McWhorter and Whitley get up in front of the rest of the pack, and we're just trying to figure out who's going to finish 3rd or 4th. And as we get ready, that's the God's honest truth, what we see. It's very strange when I see Mark Whitley buried in 17th. And I've made the joke before that sometimes I think Joseph McWhorter makes an intentional mistake, so he's got some kind of a challenge before the end of the race. He'll drop all the way back to, 23rd, 24th position, here on lap number 4, and be battling for the lead and taking the lead on, with 5 to go. As the iRacing.com pace car brings us into the extreme scoring restart zone, peeling down pit road. Joseph McWhorter with his foot hovering just above that loud pedal. We enter the restart zone, drop the hammer, and off we go here on lap number 5.
Inside line getting a great restart there. Of course, in control of the 72 of McWhorter. He'll get well clear of Ken Huber. Tracy Passons making a look to the inside, drives it up the racetrack. That's going to end up pushing Huber up and blocking the 04 of Wesley Burke. But it's side by side, 3 rows deep behind him.
Yeah, I mean, some of this side-by-side action here at the front of this pack, these are the drivers that I would trust to do that. Sometimes as if you're watching the comp, 3 wide.
3.
Talking about trusting people around you. All of a sudden, Barrett Morton, Ken Huber, and Judson Curtis decided they wanted to fight this out 3 wide. Now they break out into the diamond formation. And now coming out atop of everybody, Judson Curtis securing away 4th position, while Joseph McWhorter just logs fast time down at 32.18 seconds here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That was, if anything was a Code Brown moment, that was Judson Curtis looking to either side going, I don't know if this is very good.
Well, interestingly enough, the 54 of Austin McGolkin, He kind of took a look there to maybe make it 4 wide last time around turn 1. Luckily thought better of it, or that door shut. I don't know if 4 wide would be the best move so early on in this race, only lap 7, but maybe once we hit lap 95, we'll see some of those moves being made a little bit more frequently. Oh, looks like McWhorter had an issue down there in turns 3 and 4. Tracy Passon's looking around the outside now. And the 53 will get clear into turn 1.
Yeah, the 53 just took over the lead with almost no fight from McWhorter, who now gets himself gathered back up as he looks to scamper to the inside of Barrett Morton out of Louisville, Kentucky. And now McWhorter has to battle it out with Morton, and he was just there at that left rear tire, and now has to back off and go single file. We go on board now as just behind, there he is, just behind our race leader is Barrett Morton. Now, Morton here, one of those drivers that we've seen all season long contending for the lead, if not being more successful like that. I'll tell you what, Barrett Morton is one of the drivers that you can't sleep on, that you certainly can't let slip away.
Absolutely not. Morton always finds speed no matter where he's in, what cars he's in. Looks like we've got issues further back in the pack. Gary Wright around on the back straight. Mason Mueller involved. Stephen Purcell was also involved. So we got a 3-car, possibly a 4-car incident on the back straight. Yellow finally comes out as the front of the pack was ripping through turns 1 and 2.
Let's head on over to the V-Speed instant replay. Ay!
Oh, a couple
That's
big
not
hits.
good for anybody. Watch the 44 just get all kinds of sideways. That's Gary Wright. Oh! And the 75 of Feltz. Yeah, the 75 of Feltz and the 43. You know, that's, again, that's kind of an awareness situation. And the one thing that I'll say, being a former driver here on iRacing, sometimes that spotter, especially the digital iRacing spotter, will tell you you're clear and you're not. Or your definition of clear is completely different from the definition of the iRacing spotter.
Yeah, I could very well see that. I've had that happen to myself a handful of times. And, you know, you kind of have to hope that it's right more times than not. But unfortunately, it appears that in a time like this, just not clear enough. And came across the nose of the 75. I don't think Chuck Feltz picked up too much damage from that. Maybe a little bit of a scrape with the wall, but kept it up on the track. Versus that 44 of Gary Wright getting a lot of damage on the front left of that car and down the left side of the car. See if Wright will bring it into the pits, get some of that repaired. Mason Mueller served a meatball flag after that extra contact with the 44. So the 19 down into the pits. A tough start to the night. Started, or qualified rather, into 16th. Mueller was the only EOL penalty to be served to start this race. And I think that would have something to do with why we're seeing that driver down in the pits now. The positioning on the track from the green flag drop, just not what was needed to avoid that situation.
Nope, and Chuck Pegleg Feltz going to lead the parade down pit road out of Los Alamos, Mexico. It's going to be Feltz, Wallace, J.J. Hisa, Armando Melgoza, Brock Price, Stefan Purcell, Darrell Whitford, Gary Wright, and Mason Mayor has been down there for the last several laps. So kind of an interesting time to have to come down. One of the things that I always, that never loses its thunder with me is the fact that here on the iRacing.com servers, these drivers not only have to be a driver, but you also sometimes have to be your own spotter, your own crew chief, and occasionally your own strategist as well. I mean, there's a lot that goes into being an iRacing sim driver, you know, that although that it may be more dangerous to drive in the real world, at least they have multiple people to delegate those responsibilities to.
Yeah, it kind of all falls on the driver unless you're fortunate enough to have a potential crew chief sitting on top of the box, making some spotting calls for you, adjusting your pit stop settings. And that's one thing that you'll see a lot of the newer drivers have issues with, is getting your pit stop settings just right as you're coming down pit lane or pacing on the back straight. It can divert your attention away from what's going on ahead of you. It can lead to some contact under yellow flag, and it's something that you want to try to avoid, but not everybody has somebody friendly enough to sit on the top of the box.
Yeah, and you know, it doesn't matter how many quick hotkeys that you've programmed, whether you have, you know, a button box, or in my case, I've driven with and now produce and broadcast with a Stream Deck. You know, if you have the wrong page pulled up on your Stream Deck, you're SOL. If you reach over and bump the wrong button on your button box, you're SOL. You know, there's no perfect way to do it, and sometimes I think it comes down to driver preference. As we get ready to go back green flag racing here in just a few moments. When we go back, it's going to be Tracy Passons, Barrett Morton, Joseph McWhorter, Judson Curtis, Wesley Burke, Austin McColgan, Ken Huber, and Garrett Kinder, as well as Devontae Drain and Stefan Davis. That's going to be your restarting top 10 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Double back up, working slowly down the back straight, 55 mile an hour under pacing speeds, 45 mile an hour down pit road. Of course, 100 laps on the board for tonight. Working our way through turns 3 and 4 at America's Home for Racing. The pace car will come off here shortly, under control of the 53. Wonder how this restart will go for Tracy Passons. Pace car now comes off, working up to the extreme scoring restart zone. Green flag up in the air, ready to drop. And away we go, back on the loud pedal. Passons with a great restart. McWhorter follows suit, keeps it to the door of Barrett Morton. Gets the nose just ahead, diving down into turn 1. And looking to keep it down on the bottom. Gets a 2-for-1 potentially. Coming down the back straight, looking 3 wide potentially as Morton moves back to the inside.
Yeah, Morton's back to the inside. The 72 of McWhorter, he's the meat inside of this sandwich. And at this point, if there's anybody I trust out on the racetrack to do things like this, it's Joseph McWhorter. He runs this way all the time and keeps it hot as we work here on lap number 15. He still holds it, nearly being able to waggle his fingers inside the window net of the 53. That's Tracy Passons holding his ground. This is suddenly a battle of attrition, and now Passons squirts out in front of the 72. And now it's going to be Passons, McWhorter, and Morton atop the pile. They've gotten this battle settled out for the time being, but something tells me that's kind of a foreshadowing of what we're going to see later in this competition.
Yeah, it just looked like McWhorter started to push a little bit tight through the corner, had to let up off of the corner exit. Didn't want to drive up into the left rear of Passons. Passons now well free and clear. Barrett Morton back up to P2. McWhorter slides into third. He got a little bit of a bump there from the 54 McCulkin. Luckily, it didn't upset the car by any means. Able to keep it straight on the track, and still 2x2, slightly behind this battle. That's for the 5th spot with Judson Curtis and Wesley Burke. Wesley Burke on the outside there. Yeah, the 04 up high on the track. The 4 of Garrett Kinder following. Ken Huber down on the bottom side by side with Huber. Burke trying to find a route around the 54 and the 29. Almost being held up right now.
Yeah, it looks like they're more of a hindrance than anything. He's definitely faster. And, you know, one of the things that I think I see in this league, more so than many other places on the iRacing.com servers, are drivers who are patient. Wesley Burke right now out of Georgia, he knows that as long as he waits for McColgan or Curtis to make that mistake, he knows that he can capitalize on that. So right now, working along the inside of the 54 of Austin McColgan. McColgan holding his own for the time being, but Burke is down there just kind of lurking in the shadows. As we look back up toward the top of the pile, we've got a battle now for second position as Joseph McWhorter has to hold off Barrett Morton. Morton, who just a few moments ago was up there in P2, has climbed up 4 spots overall and now trails the 72 by just about 0.3 of a second. Now the 9 pulling down onto the apron. Wonder if he's got something broken on there, if he's got some kind of a mechanical problem. As Tracy Passons becomes the Pied Piper of Charlotte Motor Speedway here on the INVETS Grand National Series.
Looks like Morton's going to bring it down pit road this time. We'll try to get an update on the 9. Meanwhile, Levi McCarty has finally broken into the top 10, holding on to the 9th spot right now, but side by side with Devontae Drain. So That's 9 positions gained so far for the 18. Mark Whitley on pace with him, up 8 positions into 14th. This is one of those things that you can come to expect from the 18 of McCarty. Running that high line at just about any track you take this driver, always willing to rip that Larson line right up against the fence. You won't see many other drivers trying to follow suit. Jamie Lipke in the 16 just behind, a little bit higher up than the competition down on the bottom, but not quite as high as McCarty was.
Working here on lap 21, 80 to go now as Joseph McWhorter looks to regain his lead. They go side by side for the race lead, working through the quad oval across the start-finish line, and now get ready to go drag racing into turn 1. Joseph McWhorter out of St. Robert looks to the inside now and now works his way on turn 2 exit down the back chute ahead of the 53 of Tracy Passons. Now it goes McWhorter, Passons, and Curtis 1, 2, 3 into turn 3. As they rotate through turns 3 and 4, it looks like Joseph McWhorter has gotten back to where he wants to be. Meanwhile, there is a knot of cars. Whoa! As the 18 of Levi McCarty just got loose in front of Garrett Kinder. And this is kind of a knot of cars in the mid-pack, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
2 by 2, 4, 5 rows deep back here at the back half of the top 10, starting out. Oh, big contact. The 4 goes, the 18's around.
Well, it's
This is
almost,
gonna involve a lot-
they're
oh,
not done wrecking
goodness.
yet.
That's going to claim quite a few cars there. I believe the 77 of Whitley was involved. He is. Whitley will end up having to tow it off the track. Meatball flag for that driver. The 80 of Kevin Price. The 18 of Levi McCarty. The 90 of Dave Calvert. All serve meatball flags. It started with a bump, a little bit offset there on the back bumper of the 54. Got McGulkin sideways and even upset the 18, surprisingly, after giving the bump. Locks up that front left tire. That's a lot of damage to get repaired. Don't know if we'll see the 18 back on track. We'll take an onboard look. McGulkin just a little bit slower off the top of the track. Got a little sideways coming out of turn 2. And goes for a ride.
This is a really interesting development, especially some of these drivers that are involved in that. You know, Dave Calvert, Levi McCarty, and, you know, Whitley down here on pit road as well with no rear end of that car. There's a lot of big names that were involved there, and they were all kind of knotted together. As now Price is down pit road, we're going to have wholesale pit stops here on lap number 24. Of course, driver's going to start laying 3 with a total tire set count of 4. So Joseph McWhorter going to come down for 4 tires and a tank of Go Fast here in the number 72 Chevrolet Camaro. And we want to thank our good friends that keep us on the air every week right here on the INVETS Grand National Series, especially like our friends over at Nasty's. And I got to say, if you're going to pick a company name to give me to read, it's got to be Nasty's. And now it's wiped right off of my screen. And that's why. There we go. Now you got me. Anyway, March 21st, 2012, Nasty's opened its door in Hilliard, Ohio. From the get-go, they aimed to embody the energy and passion their sons, Nathan and John, poured over their dreams. Nathan's commitment to hospitality ensured that every guest received exceptional food and service. They have hosted numerous fundraisers in their establishment with the goal of raising funds to donate a sim rig to a deserving veteran or first responder. That's Nasty's. Great food and fun. And I'll tell you what, man, one of the things I love most about what Goat Locker Racing does on the whole is supporting our veterans and first responders, of course, of which, you know, that always near and dear to my heart. We want to encourage everybody to head on over to the GLR web store. Goat Locker Racing isn't just about speed, it's about standing together. Shop glrwebstore.com for top quality racing gear and know that every order supports veterans, active military, first responders, and our mission to fight mental health challenges in our community. That's glrwebstore.com, or of course, you can scan that QR code. And I'm telling you right now, some of that Goat Locker Racing merch is quite comfy, and not for nothing, it's not hokey either.
Oh, absolutely not. I've got a couple of the items off the store. I've got a couple shirts. My favorite being the hoodie. It is the most comfortable hoodie in my wardrobe, Dave. I believe Skylar
Yeah.
was just saying that in our ear as well, how comfortable that hoodie is. If it comes down to it, if I'm going out, you'll typically find me in a Goat Locker shirt or hoodie of some sort, depending on the time of year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a hoodie guy myself. Now I've got some short sleeve hoodies and things like that, but I'll tell you what, that thing, the Goat Locker hoodie, nice and soft and snuggly. Of course, here in the Northeast, we're getting ready to move out of hoodie season because, you know, spring lasts for about 20 minutes just outside of Philly. We go from nice and comfy to, oh, I'm dripping in sweat just for thinking about getting off my chair in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, I can concur with that. As the pace car lights are off, back in control is the 72. The 53 of Tracy Passon's up high on the track. Into the extreme scoring restart zone we go. Let's see how long we can take this one. Third restart of the race, and away we go. Another great jump for Joseph McWhorter with a bunch of clean air, potentially 3 wide behind. It almost happened between Passons, Curtis, and Huber. Thinks better of it. It'll be 2 by 2 down through 1 and 2.
Take a look here. Joseph McWhorter, always good on the restart, a solid driver in that respect. Now Stefan Davis here in the 09 UPS machine. He gets himself lined up. That's kind of a Dale Jarrett throwback. I almost tried to combine Dale and Jarrett all at the same time as they go side by side ahead of him in the 29 and the 40. There are battles all over the racetrack tonight, and I'll tell you what, Logan, this is one of those nights where I would feel really bad for Sky back in the production truck.
44 of Gary Wright just had a big moment off of turn 4. Don't know if we quite caught that. I saw a little bit of it there on the screen, but luckily kept it straight. That car's still heavily damaged. Not driving nearly as well as he would hope. Shuffled up quite a bit of the field, created a large gap there from about the 13th position rather, back to the end of the field. Is Wright still losing spots. The 92, Stephen Purcell, down on the bottom of the racetrack. Not too sure what happened to him just then.
And Levi McCarty gets issued a black flag, so I'm guessing the Muncie, Pennsylvania native might have been a naughty human being, at least for a little while. It's weird to see Stefan Purcell so far back right now. The Fort Gay, West Virginia native. Oddly enough, there it is, the Lung Dart diaper machine, all the way back here in 25th position. You can't deny me right there. That's just an interesting combination.
Indeed it is. I don't know what the 4 gets big sideways in front of Lipke and McGulkin. And that was just as Levi McCarty was bringing it down to serve his drive-through penalty for that restart violation deemed by race control. So I don't know if this will clear it. Trying to get that squared away, but we'll take it back here on the V-Speed Instant Replay. Had some slight contact through 3 and 4. The 54 staying right on the left rear. The 4 not quite going all the way up to the wall. Gets crossed over here and takes a hard lick. Garrett Kinder into the outside wall. The 54 not as damaged.
You know,
early
you got
on in the race, though, multiple issues.
You know, in one breath you think to yourself, you know, a little bit of door banging, no big deal. But when you send your fellow competitor up into the wall, you've done a little bit too much. At least my opinion. I don't want to speak too far out of school, but pretty sure I can empathize with those drivers. Of course, now we take a look here at the 54, who's got to get himself back up and under speed and caught up to the 4. I want to thank our friends over at Glove Station. Here at Glove Station, we are committed to providing quality gloves and protective gear for a wide range of your daily activities and jobs. From tinkering on home DIYs to working in industrial environments and everything in between, we've got you covered. With the endless amounts of safety products on the market, we want to make it effortless for you to find the right protection for your needs. You can head on over to glovestation.com, and they have, at least for my money, and I have gone over there more than once, a great website, totally functional. You can find what you need nice and easy. Always a big fan of a functional shopping experience.
Getting word here from race control. Believe that incident being deemed on the 54 of McGulkin. Have to keep up with that if the penalty does get served or not. I couldn't quite hear it, but I believe that is what happened for Garrett Kinder. Not in a tough spot here. Wesley Burke, however, will take over the lead from Joseph McWhorter. This will allow the 04 to try and get that restart that we've seen from the 72 a couple times now. And of course, like we mentioned earlier, Dave, that all-important bonus point as you work your way through these rounds of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, bonus points, points in general, of course, some leagues use stages to award those extra points, but the bonus points here are few and far between. We take a quick look here at the positions gained and lost throughout this race, and I'm pretty sure that there's also most laps led that's awarded here. We don't have a clear decider of that, only 33 laps in. But sometimes, especially this time of year when you're down to this top 12 or this round of 12, and you've got 2 weeks here in the round of 12, and then we move on to the round of 8, if you don't want to be one of those 4 drivers cut off, you've almost got to make some really gutsy moves here on the track.
Yeah, absolutely. And, drivers that I'm thinking of that are in that exact position would be any of our playoff drivers finding themselves outside of the top 10 right now. We've got multiple drivers that are way back in the field. And, looking at one, the 77 of Mark Whitley, he's being scored as 2 laps down, the only driver a lap down besides Barrett Morton, who has not rejoined the field here. But Whitley would be the one driver in the lucky dog position, as we already had that served here. It was Mason Mueller last time. Got back to the lead lap for the 19. It's started out as a very interesting race. 4 cautions so far in the first 34 laps. A couple of lead changes. Burke, McWhorter, Curtis, Huber, Davis, Passons, Libke, Kinder, Wallace, and Drain will be our top 10 for this restart.
Side by side they are, 2 by 2, Noah's Ark style. We've had 4 cautions tonight, which, I don't want to say is too much, but that seems to be just about on pace as we enter the extreme scoring restart zone. Wesley Burke hits that restart zone, drops the hammer, and off we go here on now lap number 35. Wesley Burke jumping out in front of Joseph McWhorter, almost immediately throws a block in front of him. And, when I say gutsy moves, when you are Wesley Burke and you're in that round of 12 and you have, fellow round of 12 driver like Joseph McWhorter, that's the kind of gutsy move. You've got to throw yourself in front of the hood of that car, because the 72 is a contender whether he's in first or last.
And of course, you always want to be that winner of the first race in the round. That way you can lock yourself in. It takes a huge load off of your back. It's just stress completely free for that second race. You can go out there, just collect as many points as you can to continue on through the rounds. But if memory serves me correctly, each round the point situation resets aside from the bonus points from the regular season.
We've got another battle for the lead breaking out. The 72 of McWhorter now working over the inside door panel of the 04 of Wesley Burke. And just as I say that, we go under caution for the 5th time tonight on lap number 37, looking to see what might have brought this one out.
Like the 77 of Whitley involved, the 64 of JJ Gisa. I believe the 50 of Kyle Deering as well.
Somebody needs to let them know you can't park there.
through the tri-oval. Take it back here and have a look at what's happened to these drivers.
It's questionable.
We'll get there eventually. There we are. We're getting back through 3 and 4, it looks like. Coming out of turn 4.
There's the 77 of Mark Whitley.
There's a wreck ahead of Whitley that he was avoiding.
Oh. So
Well,
Deering was
starts
already
with the
nosed into the wall.
Oh, it was a big hit to the outside wall there. Christopher Heiner with issues. Oh, that looks like that looks like a hardware issue.
You know what? There's nothing more frustrating in sim racing than a hardware failure. You know what? No, I lie. It's a hardware failure and netcode. Those are the two worst things on iRacing.
Yeah, that was a hard right turn that obviously you're not making a right turn on hardly any NASCAR circuits, certainly no ovals. And looking back through the logs here in the iRacing UI, Christopher Heiner did have a packet loss issue. So the one has found his way back behind the wall inadvertently. That just hurts the 77's chances even more to start off these playoffs. Kyle Deering ended up with a bunch of damage from it as well.
You know, Kyle Deering is a name that we don't often have to holler in a negative connotation very often, quite honestly. It's one of those situations like when Jamie Libke gets wrapped up in something that's not her fault. Kyle Deering very much the same way. You almost never see him at fault. And one of the hardest things in all of motorsports, whether it's simulated or real life, has got to be assessing driver penalties and driver fault in situations like this. This one's kind of obvious. It's hardware failure. You can't really disagree with that. But Race Control is having a busy night here on caution number 5.
Yeah, Race Control having to keep their eyes peeled in just about all 4 corners of this track at this moment. Drivers getting a warning to hold their brakes after that one.
Nobody wants to arc a brake on Sunday night.
Certainly not. And the 5 cautions to start out this race, not quite to the halfway point just yet. Wesley Burke, Joseph McWhorter will restart on the front row with Curtis and Passons behind them in row number 2. Row 3, still Huber and Davis. Row 4, Kinder and Drain. Row 5, Libke and Sneed. Trenton Sneed, haven't said that name too much today. Started out in P8. I think had some early issues, dropped back to about the 15th position or so, has worked back up to the top 10. See if the 81 machine can make a drive a little bit further up into the field, maybe come away with a top 5 or a podium. As the track temperature remains just about the same, you won't see too much fluctuation whenever we are under the lights here at Charlotte.
No, and one of the things, at least from my perspective, once you get below that 80-degree mark, that makes this track all kinds of grippy, like Velcro. So that allows for some really good racing. Unfortunately, what we've seen here tonight is some guys and gals making maybe too big of a decision too early, especially when we're only 40% of the way through this thing at 40 laps. But, they think, oh my goodness, I've got unlimited tire grip because this asphalt is really sticking. If this were a day race or a hotter race, I don't think we'd be having these same issues as we get ready for Wesley Burke and Joseph McWhorter to bring us into the extreme scoring restart zone. Wesley Burke with control of the field on the inside of that front row. The iRacing.com pace car peels on down pit road and gets ready to reset itself for the next caution. We hit that extreme scoring restart zone, and we're underway once again on lap number 41. 60 to go at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
A much better jump from the non-control car on the front row. Joseph McWhorter keeping it side by side with Wesley Burke, working through turns 1 and 2. It'll be a drag race down the back straight. McWhorter should have the advantage, a little bit more speed coming off the top of the corner. Judson Curtis drops it down from the top to the bottom to enter turn 3. Passon's looking around the outside, but I don't think it'll be enough to get door to door. And a great drive off of turn 4. McWhorter back to the lead across the stripe.
Yeah, they are exchanging this P1 slot like crazy right now. Burke fighting for his life here as he's got that 04 cranked up. Coming out of turn 2 and down the backstretch, he's going to have to tuck in behind the 72. Nope, he chooses not to, and he wants to still go door to door with the 72 of Joseph McWhorter. McWhorter now almost brushes him off as they come out of turn 4. That's where that energy unloads from that rear axle. They managed to keep it together and pointed forward right here on lap number 43.
That certainly looked like the 04 might have gotten down a little bit too close to that apron, put the left side tires on the slightly flatter surface, and had to check up coming out of the corner. Good call by Wesley Burke. Kept the car under control, gave up that position to McWhorter. The battle subsided, but immediately under fire from Tracy Passons, working around the outside now across the start-finish line. Passons up to P2, but not quite cleared the 04. Burke still battling as hard as he can down on the inside. Finally, it looks like the 53 will be clear coming down the back straight.
I'm looking a little further back here, and Jamie Libke's now starting to duke it out with Devontae Drain in the 33. These two drivers now exchanging 9th position and 8th, as now Jamie Libke being scored in 8th position. She's one of those drivers that we see week after week right now, and I don't want to jinx it. I really don't, but I can't just ignore it here. She's one of those drivers that sometimes gets wrapped up in other people's mistakes, as now the 33 washes up the racetrack, gets all kinds of tight and plows into the side of the 16. The 16 still managing to keep it pointed forward as the 33 now fades. That's probably good news. See, just as I was talking about it, Jamie Libke almost wrapped up in somebody else getting tight.
It goes back to that statement earlier on about the false confidence that this track and car provide. Of course, the O'Reilly Series car here, it does not provide nearly as much downforce. Like you mentioned earlier, Dave, it's commonly known that this car is much harder to drive than either the trucks or the Cup Series car. And that is exactly why. It is minimal downforce, high horsepower, and once you take away the side force with going through the corner, you lose that right rear tire, start to push up the track. It can cause a lot of issues, but luckily it did not there. And Burke looking to have a battle here with Judson Curtis from behind, side by side behind them. The 44 of Garrett Kinder, the 09 of Stefan Davis. Trying to sort it out here for P5.
Yeah, that Dale Jarrett throwback paint scheme just ahead of the 04. I'm sorry, the 40 of Ken Huber. Ken Huber's been really good at some of these throwback paint schemes. He had a Caterpillar paint scheme for a while. Now he's gone to the Mobil 1. And I'll tell you what, they've suddenly gotten this one all nice and single file. That's when you know that the competition, it's not cooling off, but these drivers are sitting there trying to reload and rethink and retool what they're doing. You know, one of the things that we pay attention to most is, hey, look, side-by-side action. When you see these drivers in the top 10 in this league, they're not, you know, just trying to guess what's going on. They're reloading and ready to fire off.
Absolutely, as the battle subsides between the 81 of Sneed, the 59 of Seagraves Jr. And that's kind of exactly what you're going off of there. It looked like Seagraves might have just been backing out of that battle, let the tires cool down a touch, and go right back on the attack as soon as you possibly can, because you don't want to lose that position to Levi McCarty in the 18, starting to work his way back up through the field after serving that drive-through penalty, starting at the very back of the pack. That Gravedigger Monster Jam paint scheme, ripping the top line and making passes very quickly doing so.
Oh! Loose all of a sudden was the 80 of Kevin Price, giving a big kiss of the wall coming out of 4. Still trying to get this thing corralled as he's just over top of the lung dart machine of Stefan Purcell. Stefan holding his own on the low side, but Kevin Price out of Findlay, Ohio, had a moment that could have taken out the back portion of this field.
We come across the stripe this time by Joseph McWhorter, leads us to the halfway point of this race with a healthy margin over Tracy Passons. 0.4 of a second up at the front of the field. Wesley Burke trying to attack the inside of the 53, puts those left side tires down on that blue line. We saw Burt get loose last time he tried that. This time it's stuck much better. The 09 of Stefan Davis making a charge around Judson Curtis. Almost a dirt track slide job there. Gets up ahead of Curtis. Passes into the wall out of turn 4. Davis back down to the bottom, completes another one, and back up to P3 for the 09. Up 11 positions so far.
Joseph McWhorter now with a commanding lead over top of Wesley Burke. Once again, you know, I said it earlier, who's going to finish second, third, and maybe fourth. Just at the back of that now, Ken Huber running in 6th position, trying to get his way up into that top 5. Looks at the rear bumper of the pit boss, number 53, of Tracy Passons. Now, Passons moves just high enough. It looks like Huber out of Kalispell, Montana, wants to just hold his line and wait for the 53 to make a mistake. It doesn't look like he's trying to get too aggressive, which is going to make that capitalization that much more exciting when he's able to get around him.
Looking back to the beginning half of this race, it's not a bad idea to keep yourself in a competitive spot up towards the front of the field without challenging too much. You don't want to cause issues your own. As the 18 completes another pass around the 81 of Sneed. Back up into the top 10 for Levi McCarty. Still a lot of driving to do to maximize the points for the event today. I believe at this point, just a one-stop race. Did not get to talk to as many drivers as I'd like to pre-race and see what kind of a fuel run we would be expecting here at Charlotte. But tires will be valuable as well as making it to the end of the race. I would expect to see one more stop down pit road, put some fresh Goodyear tires underneath these machines and rip it all the way to the end.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these drivers are wizards when it comes to saving that grip. You know, especially at night, that's not going to put a whole lot of heat into those tires. That's going to cook that rubber off. As they go side by side, Judson Curtis and the 09 of Stefan Davis down here into turns 3 and 4. And as they roll out of 4 and back toward the quad oval, they nearly touch. And that's exactly what the 53 of Passons is waiting for. Go ahead. You fellas want to go fight this one out. Let that Ford and Chevrolet wreck into the wall, and the 53 is just waiting and lurking behind.
And you mentioned the 40 of Huber kind of in that same boat, and even just behind that, the 4 of Garrett Kinder. Neither of those drivers seem to be, you know, too excited to battle for this position. Both of them just biding their time until one of these drivers ahead makes a mistake. It looks like that mistake possibly coming out of Ken Huber, side by side back here. There's the 77 of Whitley, finding himself another lap down, dealing with that damaged race car. 5 laps behind now for Whitley.
Yeah, you know, Mark Whitley is not one of those drivers that we often see with the negative next to their lap count. The Wilmington, North Carolina native has been a staple in the top 5, not the -5, here in the INVETS Grand National Series, and more often than not, he's out there battling with Joseph McWhorter. This is a kind of a scary start now to the postseason, or to the playoff season, that is, for him, as we've got a 3-way battle. Let's take a look here at Garrett Kinder and Ken Huber with the 53 of Tracy Passons behind. This little 3-car group here, they're going to have an interesting run to the second half of this race, as we're now at 42 to go. The 4 of Garrett Kinder looks just underneath Ken Huber. They nearly touch, but they don't. They're giving each other just enough room to keep it exciting, as they are soaked with competition right here on lap number 59.
Looks like Kinder might get the better of this battle. Finally clear of the 40. Finally gets up to the top side of the track. Huber immediately takes a look down to the bottom. Will challenge back into turns 3 and 4. Not enough to make a dive down in there, but keeps the nose right to the left rear. Driving off the bottom of the track, though, not going to provide the speed needed, as the rest of the field starting to catch up as these two continue to battle. Passons now has Seagraves, Libke. Oh, Passons into the wall.
Up in the wall. This is interesting. All of a sudden, we don't have to search for anything to talk about, as Tracy Passons managed to keep it pointed forward, which avoids the caution, but that is going to cost Passons. Let's see what happened here on the V-Speed instant replay. contact. That was woof. Not recommended.
Seagraves just drove a little bit too hard into the corner, slid up the track, got to the left rear, and unfortunately now Passons will have to bring it down pit road. A bit of damage on the front right to repair. Maybe some suspension damage that we can't quite see. That was a pretty good lick to that wall. Unfortunate to see a top contender for the first half of this race falling all the way back to the 23rd position, just ahead of the lap traffic of Armando Melgosa and Mark Whitley. Looks like McGolgan now bringing it down pit road as well. Might see a couple of these drivers elect to bring it down and get some fresh tires.
You know, one of the things that...
Go ahead, Dave.
Nope, no, you were about to take it. I knew exactly where you were going. Go for it.
I was just going to say, it's luckily enough, the 16 of Libke right behind that did not get involved.
I swear to you, that was the first thing I saw on the replay. It was like, woof. You know, this is a situation where, you know, at this stage in the season, for Tracy Passons to have been up there and contending to get that checkered flag tonight and not be in that round of 12, that's an impressive feat to me in and of itself. The other thing that I was about to say was after Jamie Libke watched that, you know, unfold right in front of her, this is also the first time in the last couple of years that I've been covering these leagues, you know, part of the Goat Locker Racing Series, where Jamie Libke's not in the playoffs for a league that I'm calling.
Yeah, it boils down to bad luck throughout the regular season, and you've mentioned it a couple times, not really on the fault of the 16 by any means, just wrong place, wrong time in multiple situations, but still stays competitive no matter where we're at, running in the top 10 right now, has a healthy advantage over the 11th place driver. That's Chuck Pegleg Phelps, 3 seconds behind the top 10 with the rest of the field behind him. We've got a couple of cars 1 lap down, 2 laps down, 5 laps down still. And then just 3 of them with a early exit on the afternoon. So started with the 28 to take the grid, drop of the green flag. Still rolling around here with 25 over halfway through this race. I'd say we finally got things sorted out here.
Yeah, now Ken Huber coming down pit road. Not sure if this was scheduled or not. We're 35 laps from the end. This may be the money stop for him. The hardest thing to do is be the first driver to pull out a line and come down pit road. You almost have to wonder, is this scheduled or did something bad happen to the 40?
I just heard the 18 of Levi McCarty also call for a pit stop. So I would say this is the start of that scheduled pit cycle. Potentially the last one to take it to the end. Of course, we only had 4 sets of tires available. That's 1 on the car, 3 over the wall for today's event. I believe at this point, we've had everybody down to the pits twice, once for fuel, once for tires. This will leave 1 set of tires available for the rest of the race if we do see another caution.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, I don't know if you just saw, but right here in the middle of our screens, somewhere around 16th position, 15th, 14th, this has suddenly become, whoa, the 92 involved in this as well. This is a pretty heavy dance. Hey, Gen X, it's time to hold on tight. Make a good decision here. Woof. They managed to work out of that problem.
As McCarty works his way back up onto the racing surface after taking his tire stop. That one will be 14.9 in the box for the 18. It was a 14.5 for the 40 of Huber. Now we're going to see a couple more drivers start to work their way down into the pits. 44 Gary Wright calling out over the radios for his pit stop. The question remains, when do the leaders bring it in? Joseph McWhorter, Wesley Burke, 45 laps since their last visit to pit road. Has to be coming up soon.
We work here with 30 laps to go as we're on lap number 70 of 100. You know, to your point, you don't want to be the first car like Ken Huber, because now Huber, don't get me wrong, is setting himself up for success if he can manage to pedal around this place fast enough once McWhorter, Davis, and Curtis come down. But now Burke is coming down pit road, Jamie Libke coming down pit road, Calvert, Devontae Drain, Gary Wright, they're all down. You know, you either want to be the first person, the very first person, part of that mid-pack. You never want to be the last one. But if there's one person I think can outlast everybody, it's Joseph McWhorter.
McWhorter's always really good at saving tires, but one thing you can't quite save whenever you're battling for positions so often is fuel. Looking at it right now, I would say about 50 to 55 laps is likely the limit on the fuel cell. So it should be soon that we see the 72, the 09, the 59, the 75 all bring it down. The rest of the field that remains on the track, 33 laps completed on the stint for Wallace, 33 for Purcell, 39 for Darrell Whitford, and 48 right now for Mason Bueller.
Bueller. It's Mason Mayor. As Joseph McWhorter, all by his lonesome, this is something that we see more often than not here with 28 laps to go. 3.02 seconds ahead of everybody else. Now, McWhorter last came down on lap number 25, so he's gone just under 50 laps. This is one of those drivers that I see, you know, himself and another driver, his name is Andrew Teft in another league, who can stretch 100 laps like nobody you've ever seen on iRacing. You know, Joseph McWhorter is one of those people who, it's almost like he finds extra fuel in the fuel cell. Or if there's one drop, he can somehow stretch that 2 or 3 more laps.
See just how long he can stretch it. A call out from Seagraves, looking to bring it down. Joseph McWhorter with a healthy lead, but how long can he extend it? He is the only driver still remaining on the track for this cycle, besides Brandon Wallace. Alternate strategy there leaves them 15 laps apart. And it was just indeed a fuel stop only last time for Wallace as he jumps up the timing and scoring into second place. 15 seconds separating both of those drivers.
You know, taking a look at these Xfinity cars, I'm sorry, I think it's easier to say the old series name than the new one, but taking a look at these O'Reilly Auto Parts Series cars, you know, Joseph McWhorter, he's got that handling that almost nobody else can get out of these cars. We take a look at some of these drivers that are just all alone here on the racetrack, and they don't translate one bit from here in the B cars to that next-gen car. The next-gen car is, of course, independent suspension, all 4 of those tires, you know, sucking down, or the chassis itself sucking down to the asphalt. You know, even looking here at the 99 of Brandon Wallace from Reaper Racing, you know, he's been able to get this car to rotate very well. And honestly, I would say that these let's say top 5 that are still on the lead lap, they're the only ones able to make this solid axle on the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series car work. I think a lot of people have gotten a little lazy with that independent suspension from the next-gen car.
That could be a big factor for some of the drivers, but, you know, ultimately they don't drive too dissimilar from each other. Obviously, I mentioned earlier the lack of downforce in this O'Reilly's car versus the next-gen Cup car, but at the same time, the next gens tend to plow a little bit more despite having that extra downforce. Kind of counter times.
Yeah, and at a place like this, you do find yourself plowing really hard, especially late in the tire run. But again, even looking here at Joseph McWhorter, who's now starting to fade back behind these cars that have come down for those fresh tires, you know, you don't see him really fighting it. I'd almost like to see what he's doing on board, and maybe he's I know I've seen him shut it off and coast and back those turns up pretty early. And just as I say that, he decided he's coming on down pit road. And Joseph McWhorter has decided that's enough. I've got 22 to go.
So I really like this position for Brandon Wallace. On paper, he might have enough fuel to take it to the end. If he has been saving for more than half of this run, that 99 might see the checkered flag on this fuel run. The only other driver that's on the same strategy would be the 92 of Stefan Purcell. But then it falls back to Levi McCarty being the first driver on the freshest tires, on the freshest fuel, to drive through 4 other drivers. Right now, he is about, I want to say, 11 seconds back from the leader. So theoretically, he should get there with those fresher tires. But it all depends on this battle with Wesley Burke. How this goes down will really determine who takes home this race win.
Well, Brandon Wallace has backed up his corners substantially in the 99, and he's really managed to make this car rotate. I mean, even where he is now, he's not really pushing, he's not really fighting that car to stay down on the racetrack, and he's letting, you know, that inertia carry him through each of these turns through the banking as we work here on lap number 81. Oh my. Sorry, I got a little concerned here as we took a look at Wesley Burke. As now Wesley Burke gonna have to let the 18 of Levi McCarty squeeze on by. I'll tell you what, I think Levi McCarty has my favorite paint scheme. Not because I like monster trucks, because I don't, but I just think it looks cool.
It is one of the more unique ones out there on the track. Of course, a couple throwbacks out there, notably the 16 of Jamie Lipke with the Greg Biffle National Guard paint scheme. But a lot of paint schemes out here that can catch your eyes, some that you can look at and wonder, what is that supposed to be? And then others that, you know, don't change very often. The 99 of Wallace has been sporting his paint scheme for quite some time, as I remember. So it looks like the 04 of Burke has gotten back around Levi McCarty, and quite the distance, about 6 car lengths between those two drivers right now.
Yeah, I mean, McCarty is at a stage right now in his race. He's got plenty of room in front of him. They're side by side behind him. I mean, hey, let him duke it out. Let somebody else fight and leave me alone up here. At least at this stage in the race, Levi McCarty, you're in the round of 12. You're looking pretty good for moving on to that round of 8. Don't screw up. Don't make a bonehead move, and you can transfer over.
99 of Wallace, 46 laps now completed on his stint. I believe it was 54 for Joseph McWhorter. So it's going to be very close if that 99 can come away here on the fuel that he's got left. So we're working around the 16 of Lipke, the 09 of Davis down to the bottom side, the 72 of McWhorter trying to drive his way back up towards the front of the field. McWhorter in a tough spot here, taking the overcut by a couple of miles. And it did not pay off, came out around the 15th position. Since now back up to the 9th spot. He's going to have a lot of dirty air on the nose to work around.
You know, I've been checking on Brandon Wallace for the last couple of laps after we got done talking about it. And Brandon Wallace, who's 3.5 seconds ahead of Darrell Whitford, is still 6 seconds ahead of Wesley Burke. And Burke came down on lap 71. I'm doing some loose math. They might be duking it out toward the end if we don't see a caution, which at this point, Brandon Wallace, I'm afraid would go homicidal if he sees a caution fly in the next couple of laps here. But right now, all things considered, I think you were dead on, as Brandon Wallace could be our race leader, our race winner, that is, late here in this race, and I think he's got enough fuel to do it.
Right now, what he needs to happen is Levi McCarty catch back up to Wesley Burke and get a side-by-side battle between those drivers, because Burke is now on a tear. He is closing in that gap rapidly. It's sitting at 4 seconds as we cross the line. I don't think that'll be enough time for Wallace to hold on to the lead. Joseph McWhorter working around the 18 of McCarty, back up to the 4th spot. Maybe if McWhorter can get to the door of Wesley Burke, this will save Brandon Wallace's race.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I mean, I didn't have that on my bingo card tonight. You know, coming into the round of 12 here in the INVETS Grand National Series, my bingo card was loaded up with the usual suspects, Joseph McWhorter, Mark Whitley, Levi McCarty. And instead, Brandon Wallace has decided to come out and just show us his tailpipe. And all of a sudden, Brandon Wallace looking like he's got a great opportunity to translate this into the round of 8. As we've now got 12 laps to go, and as they roll out of turn 4, it's about to be 11.
Burke back up to the 2nd place spot. McWhorter back to a podium. He's got 9 laps over Wesley Burke. Looking back at the pit stop times, indicating the 0-4 fuel and right side tires only seems to be the correct call over Levi McCarty, who went for the undercut by about 4 laps over Burke, 13 laps more than Joseph McWhorter, and that fall off is essentially taking McCarty out of the battle for the podium for now, unless these 2 drivers can get around Wallace, and Levi McCarty will have an opportunity to get around him. Looking at the time difference now, just 3 seconds from 4th to 1st. McWhorter flying down the backstretch, catching up to Brandon Wallace. I appreciate the effort out of the 99, but it's not going to be enough. Joseph McWhorter will take the lead coming out of turn number 4.
Yeah, this is an interesting development. McWhorter now is starting to watch as he just blew the doors off of the 99. What do you do in this situation if you're the 99?
Keep it
Do
out
you
there.
give up? Or do you just hold on for dear life?
Hold on for dear life. You still have a chance to finish solidly in the top 5 at a minimum. But a top 3 still very likely for Wallace, as Burke is yet to get around. He's trying to work on it right now, working to the inside, coming across the stripe. He will finally get by the 99. It's a short drive back, about 1.5 seconds to Levi McCarty and Judson Curtis right on the door of the 18 machine, but then it's a little bit further back to Stephen Davis. So there's still a solid chance that Wallace can finish in the top 5 in this opening round.
Yeah, you know, realistically what he did here was he kind of hedged his bets and said, I can pull this off, I can get her done right here. I mean, you know, I think that's a good strategy, especially once you hit that playoff mode. You know, it's not the same as the regular season. We talk about it in every sport, including our own right here on iRacing.com. You know, your mentality as a playoff driver changes drastically from what you did during the regular season.
Looks like Daryl Whitford now bringing it down. Stephen Purcell somehow picks up a meatball flag. Might be out of fuel for the 92. Coasting very slowly down pit road and finally gets to the box. See what the issue is there. Does look like it was a fuel situation for the 92. But Whitford was able to take it all the way out to lap 60. So if Wallace has been on as hard of a fuel save as I think, as he got stuck on the outside of a 3 wide there, Levi McCarty hold it down to the middle. Judson Curtis holding on to the inside line. I don't know, it's a precarious position if Wallace can make it to the end now.
Yeah, you have to wonder if Wallace can make it. I mean, this is, well, 5 to go. I mean, if I'm him,
laps on the stint.
Yeah, that's impressive. I mean, I'm watching Wallace from inside the car on my own monitor right now. So far, I don't see a cycling of the throttle. He's letting the car kind of rotate on its own. So basically, he's just decided to put this in God's hands and let it rock out to the very end. Even as they
contact.
Well, that was Davis in front of him kissing the wall.
That was Levi McCarty actually getting into the wall and then bounced back down, almost made contact with Judson Curtis. Davis held steady right behind it, and now he'll get to the inside of the 18. And the yellow flies. with 4 to go at Charlotte. What has happened now?
I don't see a cause for this. Oddly enough, after 98 laps, and looking here at the end, this is going to cause. We've gone so long between cautions. I wasn't even going to think that we were going to have a green-white checkered situation. But I don't see anything.
It turns out it was an issue with Daryl Whitford right out of turn 4. Got some contact from the rear, spun around, I believe. We'll take a look back here on the V-Speed Instant Replay. Find out what happened to the 20. Take it a little bit further back. Right there's the contact with the wall.
Oh, actually, there was. You know
No
what?
contact.
If we can run that, if we can run that back, I talked about it earlier, and if we run that right here, this clip here, we're going to see what I think is going to be net code here, right here. They never make contact, but the way that these, right there, the way that these cars reacted, that was a net code reaction.
That certainly looked odd.
Folks, just to fill those of you that maybe this is your first time or maybe you're new to the iRacing.com culture, what netcode is it's basically the iRacing.com servers deciding that you might be in a wreck, so it's almost like it throws off a bunch of code from your car and causes a wreck that didn't actually happen yet. It was anticipating a wreck. So a couple of things to cover here. We want to tip our cap to our friends at Lincoln Tech. Lincoln's mission is to provide superior education and training to our students for in-demand careers in a supportive, accessible learning environment, transforming students' lives and adding value to their communities. They are one of the largest automotive technology schools in the nation with 30 campuses. Lincoln Tech, put your potential to work. And now with just a few laps left, we've got a green-white checker situation, and that triggers NASCAR overtime. And what that means is right now we're going to get ready to go green flag racing in just a few moments. When the green flag flies, we will have 2 laps to go. We will race around to the white flag. However, if a caution should come out between the waving of the green flag and the white flag, we will rack them, stack them, and do it all over again. In the event that the white flag flies without a yellow, we'll race around back to checkers, and we've got 2 tries to do that. If the caution should fly after the white flag, the next flag will end that restart. So kind of a tense situation here as we go cruising across the infield on the drone cam. What a great camera shot from our production truck. All right, the iRacing.com pace car lights are out. That means that as we come into turn 1, our restarting order is going to be the usual suspects, Joseph McWhorter and Ken Huber atop the pile. Frederick Seagraves and Chuck Pegleg Feltz restarting in third and fourth. Trenton Sneed, Jamie Libke, Judson Curtis, Wesley Burke, Levi McCarty, and Stefan Davis in the 09. Going to round out your restarting top 10 as we get ready for NASCAR overtime.
And something to worth note here, McWhorter obviously kept it out on the track for good reason, had the freshest tires in the field. You do not want to relieve that track position. 20 laps completed on his stint, 34 for Huber, 25 for Feltz and Seagraves. Everybody else behind brought it down. Sneed and Libke taking right side tires only. Wesley Burke and company behind, all taking 4. So this, at this point, is anybody's ball game.
As we get ready to go back green flag racing, when you say it's anybody's ball game, that's the understatement of the year, because after all of this racing, it all comes down to this. The iRacing.com pace car dives on down pit road. We hit the extreme scoring restart zone. NASCAR overtime engaged. Joseph McWhorter with a good restart over the rest of the field. He's going to start to gap Ken Huber and Frederick Seagraves as it seems like, and into the wall. We're going to have a caution.
A couple of big hits there out of the top 10. Brock Price involved, Kevin Price involved, Dave Calvert. Levi McCarty picking up a meatball flag as well. Have a look at the V-Speed instant replay, shuffling around 3 wide. The 29 ends up completely sideways. Not sure if that was contact, but McCarty hard into the outside wall, and then looked like he was down on the apron down the back straight as well, so I'm going to assume that that front right took some heavy suspension damage. Take an onboard look here. I think that might have been another netcode issue. We saw some initial contact there. It slightly upset the 29 machine, but then there was no more contact, and still Curtis ended up sideways.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to bring out this caution here on lap number 102. You know, just when you think that you've got it all figured out here at the very end, that's when dumb things or bad things happen. And Joseph McWhorter really, he doesn't care how he gets the win. He just wants it. And I don't blame him whatsoever.
I don't know if he's going to get it at this point. Wesley Burke just jumped up about 6 positions up to the top 4 on fresh tires. The speed difference coming out of the corner between McWhorter and Burke, I think I have to favor the 0-4 taking the checkered flag this time.
Well, the 0-4 is going to be starting on the outside of row 2 when we go back green flag racing. That does put him, you know, in a position where even if he wants to burn a little extra grip, he's still got a huge advantage. And, you know, you're not wrong. I don't know. I think at this point we flip a coin. Is it going to be Burke? Is it going to be McWhorter?
I mean, we saw the 18 take that high line for about 30 laps in a row before he started having any sort of issue on the grip. So, you know, to take it here to our second green-white checkered attempt, I mean, I'm heavily favoring that 0-4 in this situation. It's going to be a battle to the end. McWhorter will not let it go easily, but I just don't know if 23 laps or 19 laps a difference on the tires will be enough for the 72 to hold on.
You know what, though? If there's anybody, and I mean anybody on this racetrack that can give the rest of the field a run for their money, even on old tires, it's Joseph McWhorter. I don't want to be a homer, and I try really hard not to be a homer, especially when I've developed, you know, like a favorite driver in a series. But good gravy. I think I'm supposed to be objective, but I can't be at this stage.
Seagraves will be starting on the inside line next to Wesley Burke. The 40 of Ken Huber in front of Burke. This is going to be an interesting situation for the 04. Huber has the worst tires out of the top 5. 38 laps as opposed to 24 and 29. I think this all is going to boil down for Wesley Burke just how good of a jump the car in front of him can get. And of course, the rest of the field has to keep it green. This will be our final attempt at the green-white checkered. So if anything happens before we take that white flag, Dave, all bets are off. The field is frozen in time, and that will be our finishing order.
Here we are as we have decided to rack them and stack them one more time at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're getting ready to go into the extreme scoring restart zone. You know, we're in the shadow of a lot of race shops here in the NASCAR world, and, you know, we think of those marquee tracks being Daytona and Talladega, but Charlotte Motor Speedway has just as much, if not more, importance to a lot of race teams in the real world and the sim world as the iRacing.com pace car peels on down. Final green-white checkered attempt of the night. They hit that extreme scoring restart zone. Joseph McWhorter hops like a bunny, and the outside doesn't get going. The outside doesn't get going. It stalls Wesley Burke. They go 3 wide and bottle themselves up. Burke's going to have to pedal hard as he gets ready to burn the tires off of the 04, and there it is.
There it goes. Garrett Kinder around in the 4. Wesley Burke, I don't think will get that 3rd place spot. And that will be it at Charlotte.
let's take a look at the V-Speed instant replay as we do take the glove station white flag officially. But that contact happened deep in the field. The 4 goes a spinning.
Oh, Whitley coming in
Hubert.
hard with another hit.
Burke was being scored. Burke is being scored in 3rd position. iRacing has, at least for the time being, made the call. The glove station white flag is in the air as we're going to, instead of racing back to checkers, we are going to crawl back to checkers. Joseph McWhorter going to be our race winner. That pretty much goes undecidedly. This white flag presented by Glove Station. It's going to be Joseph McWhorter collecting the checkered flag. Frederick Seagraves Jr. finishing in P2. Wesley Burke, at this moment, being scored 3rd position on the podium. Ken Huber and Trent Sneed, they're going to round out your top 5 with Stefan Davis, Brandon Wallace, Jamie Libke, Devontae Drain, and Austin McColgan making up your top 10 tonight here at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
As Joseph McWhorter will take off from the field, do his victory lap, bring it back to the front straight, and burn it down for the virtual fans of Charlotte Motor Speedway. Dave, what do you say we send it to a quick commercial break after a short celebration here from our race winner, have a word from a few of our sponsors, and we'll be right back with our final finishing results after race control gets everything sorted. And of course, our interviews with our top 3 finishers as McWhorter takes it down to the grass.
Yeah, he's going to do a little bit of landscaping right here on the infield at Charlotte Motor Speedway, as he is going to drive right over top of the Coca-Cola logos, Freeway Insurance, and Xfinity. My goodness. What a night for Joseph McWhorter. And folks, we will be right back. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Stick around. You're going to hear from our race winner and his podium finishers right here on V-Speed.
Superior quality, ultimate protection, and the highest level of craftsmanship. We make our gloves for the hard worker that wakes up every morning and gives 110%. You deserve the highest quality protective gear that's going to work for you day in, day out. We know it can be tough deciding what companies to trust for your hard-earned money. It's all in our name. We've mastered our craft to help you master yours. We make our gloves rugged, durable, and designed for you. Whatever the job is, we have you covered. We are your glove station.
A thriving job market and low cost of living, plus a wide range of veteran benefits, make Indiana the perfect place for veterans of the United States military to call home. INVETS can help you find that home. We're an organization started by veterans to help former service members transition to civilian life in our state. INVETS can help you find the community with the career opportunities, housing, schools, and amenities that fit your lifestyle. To learn more about INVETS, visit us at invets.org today.
Welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway. You're watching the INVETS Grand National Series live here on V-Speed. Dave Regal alongside of Logan Santa Threlkeld. Sky Daly up in the production truck. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're going to quick talk to our race winner, and that being Joseph McWhorter tonight, as we get him into the broadcast booth. Hey, Joseph, it's Dave up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Listen, man, you led 70 laps tonight. You started in second. You laid fast time down at 30.022 and still come home with the checkered flag. How long were you trying to hold out that last set of tires you had before coming in?
Well, I had enough fuel to make it all the way to lap 90 with the cautions and everything. When I seen everybody started pitting with like at lap 70 and 65, I'm like, there's no reason for me to pit now. I'll just run it out and see if we can't. If it stays green, I'd be okay, and I can get the lead back. And that's what I ended up deciding to do and pit on 80. Have a 20 lap run to the end. It ended up being the right decision. We ended up putting ourselves right where we needed to be. Unfortunately, I had that caution late. Kind of sucks because it was going to be just a nice calm finish. But, we made a mistake. I was going to pit, and I mistaked my teammate Mark for a lead lap driver and thought that more people were staying out, so I stayed out. And then once I got to thinking about it, I'm like, well, honestly, I don't think we're going to be able to get through the restarts green, so it might work out. Worst I could do is, I had such a good points night. I didn't really have anything to lose, so it just ended up working out.
Yeah, sometimes the best laid plans are just kind of a waste of time, especially when you still wind up atop the pile. But congratulations on the win tonight. Before we cut you loose, who do you need to thank and who helped you get it done tonight on the 72?
Yeah, first and foremost, need to. Sorry, hang on. I need to thank INVETS, Lincoln Tech, Save 22, Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, above the yellow line, all the partners that make GLR what it is. Want to thank the drivers for a pretty good race. We got some green flag laps in. That was a good time. Want to thank Outlier Speed Co. Go check them out, outlierspeedco.com. Amazing partner of mine. Johnny and the boys over there have been building some amazing sets. I mean, if you want something that's a little bit cheaper than a Connie set that you can go out there and outrun Connie, then that's the place to go. Red Camel Racing, check them out at redcamelracing.com. Fire suit, shoes, helmets, you name it, they've got it. Anything that you need for a race weekend. Can't wait to start repping their stuff. We start hopefully if the weather holds out, we get to start the Crown Vic series in real life at Lebanon I-44. So go check them out. Let's see, who else do I need to thank? I'm forgetting my sponsors here. BK Games. Go check out BK Games on Facebook. If you're a nerd like me, Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering, figurines, anything you can think of, go check them out. I think you can even order stuff. I think they have a website you can even order from. So go check them out at BK Games. It's in St. Robert, Missouri. You guys for putting on the broadcast and ready to get into next week.
Alrighty, congratulations on the easy transfer into the round of 8. Folks, that is the voice of race winner Joseph McWhorter.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And next up on the podium tonight going to be Frederick Seagraves Jr. And Logan, I think you have him now.
Yeah, we've got Frederick Seagraves Jr. down here. No laps led, but you started out 19th, found your way up through 17 drivers for a podium finish here today. Frederick, you got a copy?
Yeah, I got you guys.
What a great outcome for yourself here. Obviously not quite where you want to start. Way back in the field, you avoided some early incidents there and managed to come away with a P2 finish. Congratulations, first of all, on that. Now, coming down to that last restart, you were one of the worst tires up there in the top 5, but you managed to hold it down. You got good restarts, kept yourself competitive up there. What were the thoughts going through your head coming down to the closing of this race when we thought it might have come down to a fuel run issue and then just saving tires as best as possible? But obviously that yellow flag late in the race really throwing a wrench in things.
Yeah, I mean, I never really start well. I don't really have qualifying speed to touch on that first, but I usually come kind of from the back. I'm able to fight up into the top 10 range. I felt really good on the long runs tonight. Or long run, I guess. I stayed out a few laps too long, kind of put myself back on the 8 ball. Got that yellow, felt good about it. Came back out. We went running. We got back up to 6, but I just too much of a gap from staying out too long. I saw the leaders decided to pit, and I was like, man, cautions breed cautions. I'm not going to have the time to get back up there if I go with them. They're going to be faster than me on the fresh tires. So I just kind of hoped that we would get what we got and get the 2 fast yellows and hang on to a decent finish. Goal at the end of the day was the top 10 with the first race of the playoffs, and we got P2.
Yeah, your expectations have been outweighed by the outcome substantially here. Congratulations on that. And obviously setting yourself up very nicely for the next race. A little bit of a stress reliever as you guys work into the second race here of the playoffs. And that will be at, of course, Iowa next week. How are you feeling about the second race here, the cutoff race for the round of 12?
Tonight's race was pretty important for me. I'm not super confident at Iowa. I put in some work with my teammate, Devontae Drain, trying to get ready for the playoffs. Gonna put in some more work with him, trying to get ready for Iowa. Like I said, it's not one of my strong suits in this car. So tonight makes next week a little bit easier.
Well, glad to hear it. And I know you had some fans out there in the chat tonight. So Frederick Seagraves Jr., who do you have to say thanks to or shout out for your P2 finish in the first round of the playoffs?
I got to thank everyone that partners up with the league, Jam Printing Promotions, INVETS, V-Speed, Alexander PCs, Cruising Classics, GTR Simulators. I got to thank my team, 4Wide Motorsports, everything they helped me do to get ready. Dark Fusion Systems for the computer builds. Gaming Chef's been with me ever since I started racing on Forza. He's been a big supporter. Wild Things Media, Racing Club, TRC. There's a bunch more. I don't get to do this very often, so sorry if I missed you guys. But anyone who supports me, I'm thankful. I appreciate it, and it's fun racing here.
You certainly put on a great show. Congratulations once again. We will catch you next week at Iowa, and hopefully a repeat or a better finish for you, Frederick.
If it's any better, you guys will hear me freaking out. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, I challenge you to it. We want to see it. We'll catch you next week, buddy.
Yep.
That will be our P2 finisher. And Dave, I believe you are catching up with our third place finisher, Wesley Burke will be joining us here in the V-Speed booth.
Hey, Wesley, it's Dave up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Listen, you led 10 laps tonight. You had a faster lap than our race winner at 29.996 seconds, and you still managed to finish right where you started tonight. Does that feel like it's a little bit of a disappointment, or after all of the mayhem that we saw, that's got to still feel pretty good in the long run?
I mean, yeah, it is disappointing, but first of all, I'd like to apologize to Chuck there. I didn't realize he had that big of a run on me, and I put him in the grass. That's completely on me. Didn't realize he had that big of a run. But yeah, I felt good.
When I saw that run coming, I mean, you didn't, at least from my money, you didn't do anything wrong. That's racing is racing.
Yeah, I took 2 tires in that green flag pit stop, and to be honest, the first 10 laps felt like GT3 on cold tires. Like, it was loose. I was like, uh-oh, I made a mistake. But after that first 10 laps, though, it felt like the old Xfinity car. I could drive it off the right rear, and I was moving. But what I think lost me the lead was I took too much fuel, and I spent like 2 extra seconds on pit road after my right sides were put on, and because of that, it put me right in the battle with Ken and Levi. And if I don't battle them for those 10 laps or whatever, I think I could have held on for it. But with the caution, not sure how that would have played out. But
yeah, I mean, still a really well-fought battle tonight here on the racetrack at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Before we cut you loose and before we turn our attention to, next week, who do you need to thank and who helped you get it done tonight on the 04 machine?
I'd like to thank y'all up in here in the booth. iRacing, MK Fire Designs, SimMotion, Arco Designs, Stat Graphics, and INVETS being the title sponsor.
Alrighty, folks, that's the voice of Wesley Burke. I want to thank him for his time. And, well, Logan, we've only got one more thing to do, and that's cover the very end here and go over that final lineup here. Joseph McWhorter brought home the checkered flag tonight. He's followed by Fred Seagraves Jr. and Wesley Burke on the podium. Ken Huber finishes in fourth, and Trenton Sneed rounds out your top five. Stefan Davis and Brandon Wallace finish sixth and seventh, while Jamie Libke finishes eighth. Devontae Drain finishes in ninth, and rounding out your top 10 is Austin McColgan in the 54.
And a front runner for the beginning half of the race, the 53 of Tracy Passons finds their way into the 11th finishing position. The 44 of Gary Wright had early on issues but recovers well. Back to P12, 17 positions gained for that driver. Behind them, Chuck Feltz, the 75, after the contact there with Wesley Burke, loses quite a bit of ground out of the top five, but finishes 13th overall. The 43 of Brock Price, followed by Kevin Price in the 80 for 14th and 15th. Stephen Purcell in the 92 takes home 16th, with Dave Calvert in the 90 taking home 17th. The 4 of Garrett Kinder in 18th. In 19th, it's the 64 of JJ Gisa, and last but not least, in the top 20 is the 20 of Daryl Whitford.
Finishing in 21st is Mason Mayor with Judson Curtis in 22nd. Levi McCarty finishes in 23rd with Mark Whitley, one of our normal contenders, way back in 24th. Armando Malgosa finishes in 25th, with 26th going to Christopher Heiner. Kyle Deering finishes in 27th, and last but not least, beating everyone to the beer stand tonight was Barrett Morton out of Louisville, Kentucky. He finishes dead last as Mark Barcelos never took the green flag. So from Charlotte Motor Speedway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and making us a part of your evening, and we want to thank everybody for hanging out and, of course, cheering on our drivers. My name is Dave Regal. His name is Logan Threlkeld, and our producer's name is Skylar Daly. And tomorrow and every day as you walk down the road of life, please don't play in traffic. Good night, everybody.
A thriving job market and low cost of living, plus a wide range of veteran benefits, make Indiana the perfect place for veterans of the United States military to call home. INVETS can help you find that home. We're an organization started by veterans to help former service members transition to civilian life in our state. INVETS can help you find the community with the career opportunities, housing, schools, and amenities that fit your lifestyle. To learn more about INVETS, visit us at invets.org today.